The biggest area we're trying to, and I want to caveat trying to, right, is free the data and use it for readiness. It is really determining, are we prepared to engage in activities, whatever those activities might be, whether it's some sort of kinetic activity or otherwise, right? And so pulling together, you know, the Chief of Staff of the Army always does this example where he pulls out his iPhone and he asks Siri, you know, how many tanks does the Army have? And shockingly, it's within 10%, right?
I wonder what would happen if I asked Siri.
Yeah, this is a great question. But it's not really about how many tanks we have, right? It's like, do we have the right tanks in the right place with the personnel to operate them, all of the equipment to repair them, and the appropriate logistics and supply chain management around that, right? So that's actually where we're making a big push right now to stitch together. And you know, the topic of data integration, people kind of gloss over this, right? When you were saddled with IT systems that were built in the 80s, maybe 70s in some cases, right? These systems were not designed to be interoperable in any manner, fashion, or form, right? So what we're seeing is our challenge is baselining just the most mundane information in the system, simple things like, what are all the commands in the U.S. Army, right? There is no, we know what they are, right? Because we have this thing called the Army Org Server that tells us, right? But there's no database that someone can go to and just look up, you know, what is the actual official U.S. Army position on what Forces Command is called, right? Something that simple really causes an extrapolation and an explosion in being able to integrate information. So if you want to know where are all my soldiers and how are they trained, but you don't know authoritatively what unit they're assigned to, it becomes a huge problem, right? And then do you trust that data? What is the veracity of that data? What is the quality of that data? And you know, it's I always say they're dirty words from the 80s, but controlled vocabularies and master data management, right, is something that everyone talked about way back in the big data warehouse days, right? But it's legit, right? You got to do it. That's kind of 101 before you can get to any analytics. And I know big data and cloud and you know, AI are like the buzzwords right now, but without some of that fundamental data work and the integration and the fusing of the data, you're not going to be able to get to that higher level analytics. And so that's where we're seeing the biggest bang for the buck right now, is really cleaning up our infrastructure and to make it cloud ready, to allow us to, you know, we're not a big fan of kind of picking up things and moving them necessarily, although we have to do it on occasion. We'd like to modernize and then move, right? And that's the kind of the goal to maximize our bang for our buck there.
So cleaning up the data.